Good day, lovely people. Hi, how are you? What's that? Beautiful day, beautiful day. Thank you for being here. So, today I'm going to be kind of talking about a little bit of a few topics, right? Um, One being operating in your best self, doing the things that make you feel fulfilled, and basically just being yourself. And I know that a lot of times people can confuse being yourself or being authentic or authenticity with um, being natural or being a certain way, right? And um, I show up in certain ways intentionally, not only for myself, but of course for other people that are viewing, just simply because it's better to set a good example, or it's to me, it's easier to set the example than to just talk about it. It's easier to just kind of do it. And yeah, like, so when it comes to authenticity, I believe personally that it doesn't take a rocket scientist to to find out what authenticity is. Honestly, only you know what your true authentic self is, right? Only you know what your true authentic self looks like, sounds like, feels like, operates like. And that's kind of the beauty of, not even kind of, that is the beauty of being human. I love the idea that we are the only version of ourselves that will ever exist, that has ever existed, and that ever will exist. We are quite literally one of a kind. Each and every one of us are one of a kind. We all have our own energetic signature that is calculated and imprinted into this world, and we get to exude it. We get to be it in a way that does not need to be justified by anybody but yourself. It doesn't need to be validated by anybody but you, right? And I know that when it comes to like social media, when it comes to just having friends or, judgment here and there, it's easy to kind of determine or base your validation by the number of views you get or the number of likes you get or who told you look good today or who didn't tell you look good today or the ugly looks you get or the nice looks you get, the compliments you give, the compliments you don't give. It doesn't really matter as long as you like it, right? So like my hair, for example, if I was like, well, okay, I'm gonna be honest. I was like, I don't know, like, I don't know if I should change my hair up. Like, I don't know. I didn't even let myself get past that thought because one, I just opened my books. I'm a hairstylist, so why wouldn't I want to do my hair? That to showcase that I'm able to do hair. Two, this is an investment. I'm this unit itself. If you know, you know, hair is expensive. This unit itself was upwards of $700. No, between the coloring. Speaking of my flyaways, but yeah, um, I put some, what's it called? I put some heat protectant in it, and it's like it was kind of an oily heat protectant. I don't really like it on this unit, but anyways, so yeah, if I were to have been like, going with the thoughts and the beliefs that honestly aren't even mine, I heard it put, you're a belief thief. You still beliefs that aren't yours. If you believe something about yourself that isn't true, or that I mean, honestly, just flat out isn't true, you're a belief thief. You stole somebody else's belief about you and you applied it to yourself. Be for real. Like, you quite literally cannot accept the things that don't align with exactly who you are, because at the end of the day, you aren't being authentically yourself, right? And I know that it can be easier said than done. I know that it's said that it's easier said than done, but when I tell y'all, it is so easy to just do it. Just be, right? Just be yourself. I don't want to attract any unnecessary attention. I had somebody come up to my car earlier when I was recording, and like they just walked over. I guess they heard my voice because I have this up, and they were like just trying to see, like, I don't know. It was weird because I'm sitting here and they're like, I'm like, hey, but we are in a parking garage, so I don't know. But yeah, so I wrote something down. I was like, I believe the coolest thing about life is the fact that there's only one of us. I think I said this earlier in the video. Um, yeah, so that I feel like that's just at the end of the day and the beginning of the day, it's the coolest thing about us is that we are capable of existing and being in a way that is basically handmade for us. We can handmade these things, right? We are able to be versions of ourselves every single day. We are able to switch it up. We are able to change our sleeve, you know, um, customize our avatars. We are able to shift. We are able to grow, change, explore, exude, be excited, have joy, have love, have all of these things that people tend to think that you have to like ask for approval for. Like, why do I need approval to be happy? Why do I need approval to come make a video and talk to? Honestly, as of right now, nobody. But I know that there are people that I'm aligning with that are looking for exposure to somebody like me. I know it's almost inevitable because of energy. There are people that are going to align with me. There are people that are already aligning with me, right? And I think that it's a similar kind of feeling that I get personally when I'm, you know, engaging with people that I love or with people that I care for in a manner that's, well, the manner that I'm always engaging with them in, but in a manner that's more uplifting rather than trying to stoop down to their level in a way. Not to say that they're on a bad level, they're just on a level that I don't naturally reside on, right? So I kind of have to bring myself down to fit in or to feel like I'm fitting in or to feel like I'm resonating with a certain type of people. But I've come to terms with the fact that I just don't operate. I don't operate that way, right? I know that there are people who will see this video and they're probably talk, you know, all type of numbers about me. You know, my car, my situation, the fact that I'm sitting backwards in the car, the fact, you know, what I'm talking about, what I'm doing, and I've had these things said to me in person, you know, and not as an adult really, but like um in a way that, you know, of course you switch it up the older you get, but it's the same kind of energy, like, oh, like, you know, that. But when you think about it, if I'm being led to not only do something like this, it's not like I'm just on here, you know, flashing, being flashy or doing certain things. Not that there's anything wrong with that. This is just who I am, right? This is what comes out when I press record and I decide to talk and speak and express myself and to give my authentic, individualistic, raw, you know, special viewpoint of my opinion. I have a very special perspective, just like everybody else, just like anybody else who's watching this. All of your perspectives are valid, and all of you have an individual perspective. And that's the coolest thing about being human. I think that's the coolest thing about us being here. It does feel, and it can feel kind of suffocating, given the idea or the way of being that we've all been born into. Well, I can't say all of us, I'm sure not all of us are born into this way of life, which is why we even have this type of exposure, which is why I'm even, to a certain extent, was able to even resonate with other people to reconnect, or the idea of reconnect, because we're never really disconnected. You can never be disconnected, right? It's That's actually impossible. You can use your connection to create the idea or the simulation of being disconnected. Heard it beautifully put. But which is such a crazy idea to think about, that that's what we do. But that's all because of our egos, right? And our egos are so bruised and neglected and beat up because of people that never came to terms with the idea that, okay, this feels this feels not natural, this feels not normal, so therefore I'm going to then change it. Some people don't do that. Some of us have been doing it since we were a kid. You know, some of us started to do it as teenagers. Some of us do it in our early 20s. But some of us were quite literally born this way, right? And you come into the world, and well, really all of us are born this way. But you come into the world and you get so beat down and battered, and you know, you get basically conditioned to, I think of most things like playing basketball, right? I played basketball when growing up, and everything's, it has a similar kind of formula. You know, you're in the sport, you're in that league or whatever the case may be. You get your training, and to train, to do anything, to build muscle, you have to break it down. Now, what kind of muscle are you building? I don't know. It depends on what the environment is that you were born into and what your parents or what your guardians were building into you. What were they helping you shape, right? Were they helping you shape the muscle, a weak muscle, the muscle of weakness? Were they helping you shape the muscle of shame? Or were they helping you shape the muscle of confidence? Were they helping you shape the muscle of creativity? Were they helping you shape the muscle of working your mind in a perspective or in a manner that gives you the opportunity to realize and to accept and to account for the fact that you do have so many options and the fact that you do have perspective, right? And I understand that from a personal view and personal standpoint that it's so easy to get pushed into a box, right? Um, I'm weird, or I'm a way that is not normal for how I necessarily look or how I'm shaped or how I come across to the naked eye. And I had a hard time, I never really had a hard time, but I think that it was one of those things that I just came to the conclusion that, like, okay, this is not like fun anymore. I was experiencing something where people would do this thing where they would like leave me on red or something. It was unnecessarily, right? And it was a pattern that I noticed. And I had a friend tell me, and this is a guy, and he actually ended up doing it himself. But and he admitted to it. That's how I know that I was, it was confirmation in that manner, other than me having already had confirmation. Um, yeah, we spoke about it and whatever, right? Because I'm forgiving and all that, right? Just for the purposes of field study in a way. Anyway, so basically it came to my attention that people kind of get off on the idea of leaving certain types of women on red, which is why the certain type of woman is the way she is to begin with, because people treat her so that is not, necessarily respectful or consistent or okay, yeah. So I got a phone call and yeah, I probably should look. No, let me try to remember. I forget where I just left off on. What did I leave off? I think I was talking about. Oh yeah, so I was basically talking about how I was not having fun being what, in a sense, was not my most authentic self. Not to say that I wasn't being myself. I was being myself. I was being a version of myself, but it wasn't a version of me that I felt was extremely authentic. It was somewhat authentic. It was authentic here and there. I was putting on this like mask and trying to blend in so that I didn't stand out too much, because as soon as I do, there's a lot of contradictions. I'm a walking contradiction in a lot of ways. Whereas, you look a certain way, you need to act, walk, talk. You need to move a certain way so that you are more palatable, right? And I believe that because we're taught in a lot of ways to be digestible for other people, and we're taught that we need to be palatable for other people in so many ways, we tend to dilute ourselves so that we can fit in, or so that we don't, make too much noise. And I'm just here to say, make noise, take up space, be your most authentic self, do the things that bring you the most joy, because essentially that's what I'm doing. And it was put to me, which I probably mentioned in other videos before, but I keep getting confirmation of this from like multiple different sources that don't know each other, sources that aren't crossing paths. And it's basically to be, or that I am being selfish. I'm being selfish. I'm being selfish when I decide that I'm not going to be my most authentic self. When I decide that I'm going to blend in and fit in a place that I quite literally don't fit in. If the creator created this big picture, right? If we are the big picture, right? And us being our most authentic selves completes the puzzle. If I go and shave an edge, or if I go and change my shape, or change my, of course not in the most literal sense, because we are ever changing. But if I go and change or dilute myself, or not fully exude and fill out the entirety of my being, then I don't complete the picture. I am assisting in not completing the picture. So therefore, that's the incompleteness. Me, a part of the incomplete totality of things is me being incomplete. And it basically falls in line with being the change that you want to see, right? You have to be the change that you want to see. Otherwise, you're just going to see the same things, because there's not going to be any change. And sometimes, even in a sea of thousands, even millions, you yourself, you as an individual, are the change that people need to see. Imagine if Michael Jackson never woke up, or never got pushed, or never got trained in the way that he was, or whoever you look at and deem iconic or successful, or a movement in this way of life, in our reality, right? Imagine if Beyonce wasn't Beyonce. it would kind of, you can't even fathom it because it doesn't really make sense, because you know that, okay, that lady's going to wake up every day and she's going to be whatever version of herself that catapulted her into who she is today, right? Because there could have been decisions that she made. Her mom could have made a decision, or her, her as an individual could have made a decision to not be who she is, and then we wouldn't have Beyonce, or we wouldn't have this version of her. You know what I'm saying? And I'm happy that I'm in the timeline where I do get those type of examples, because I could very easily be in a timeline where she chose something different, right? I could be in a different timeline for myself where I chose something different. Back to what I was saying about the confirmations that I've been getting, or the correlations, or the synchronicities, or however you want to call it, of people telling me that I'm being selfish. I got told this as a kid. Well, it wasn't as a kid. It was a little while ago. I was a little younger. I was more younger than I am now, much more younger. And basically it was said like, your gifts are to be shared. Like, you're being selfish. And I'm like thinking, like, I'm the oldest of siblings. I got siblings. Selfish is not in my vocabulary. What do you mean? But okay, so that's what that was said when I was a little younger, right? And then here recently, on TikTok, I posted a video. I've been posting videos on TikTok because I'm just like, I woke up one day and I'm like, I don't care. I'm not doing this. I'm not, being scared to post a video. That's crazy. It's crazy. It's really exposure therapy for myself so that I can get used to even doing things like this. Just training myself out of caring. I don't care. I don't care anymore. Anyway, so one of the comments, because I'm getting a heck of comments. I'm getting so many comments on my posts, and one of the comments that stood out to me was one of these guys. He was like, "Where have you been hiding? Like, you've been selfishly not posting all this time. Like, how dare you?" And I'm like, what? That's crazy. Like, the way he said it was almost verbatim to what was said to me as a kid. And what was said to me as a kid was said by, I believe, one of my professors, or it was one of my professors. And I wasn't a kid. I was like a teenager. This was when I first went off to school. Anyways, so the third confirmation that I got, I was watching one of my favorite speakers, and he was basically saying, you not being your most authentic self is selfish. It's quite literally selfish, because there's somebody somewhere in the world that is looking for somebody like you. There's somebody out there that is looking for you to ignite their flame. Literally. I'm like, what the heck? Like, me, little old me? And when you think about it, it's not little old you. It would never be little old you. You thinking that you are small is you using your big mind to think that you are small, to create a simulation of being small. Think about it. God does not make things for no reason. The Creator didn't create you for no reason. What sense would that have made? It doesn't make sense. The Creator doesn't do things that don't make sense. So when you really think about it, you being your most authentic self is the only thing that makes the most sense. Really creating the idea of not making sense is the paradox, because you created it out of making sense. To have lack, you have to have abundance. If you're poor, that means that there is something that is rich that you are avoiding, or not stepping into, or just not accepting. Your birthright is abundance. Abundance is your birthright. So if abundance is your birthright, why wouldn't you go step into that form, or that desire, or that reality that you are, or that you possess, or the options that you have? You're choosing with your abundance to look at life as having a abundance of lack. You have to think about it. Like, not to say that you have to do anything. You can think however you want, but for whoever out there resonates with somebody like me, whoever sees somebody like me and is like, oh my God, like, yeah, that moved me, or that motivates me to do this, that, or the third. That is what I'm here for. That is what I show up for, because I dealt with, for a very long time, thinking that I was small, knowing that I feel heavy, knowing that I feel I'm a force. I'm a driving force in this reality, in my life, in this world, because I am all that I am. And that is enough. That is all that I am, all that I am, and that is perfectly fine. There's nothing that I need to do that would, besides exuding and expressing my authentic, unapologetic opinion, perspective, my new perspective via New Day. You know what I'm saying? So I believe that everybody should basically do the same thing. That is what the Creator created us for, is to express ourselves. The Creator expressing itself through all of us, so that we can then show each other what God is, what God looks like. This is all that I am, right? Like, it's sometimes like I don't have the words for some of the things that I've felt and that I know and the information that I've come across and been able to even put in parables or even metaphorically, because I've been told, or I've been kind of, well, attempted conditioning of, how do you know that? Where'd you learn that? Where da 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 da. 9 times out of 10, half the things that these people that I'm coming to terms of learning that certain people know, it didn't come from anywhere but the creator. The things that I know, sometimes I can't explain it, and I don't have to explain it, because you then should use your discernment and your intuition to fact check. You know what I mean? The thing is that everything is true, everything is valid, all perspectives are valid. So even if it's a lie, or even if it's negative, it is to show you that something is the truth or that something is positive. I saw this video, and this girl, she was like, she was in a relationship from 19 to like 29 or something. She's going to be 30 soon, and that she had her good years stripped from her. And I'm like, that's a crazy perspective to have. Yeah, that's a valid perspective if you want to look at it from that, viewpoint. But at the same time, the way I look at being in a long relationship and it didn't work out is that I had a very concentrated, very controlled, in a sense, environmental kind of practice that I was able to experience certain things with one person versus experiencing them with 17 different people. I didn't have to go date after date, sexing person after person to understand or to learn certain things, and yet I was still able to fall in love. I was still able to have my heart broken. I was still able to do, this, that, and the third, have these different levels of myself in a very controlled environment. People think that they're missing out on something, and in reality, what they're missing out on is other people thinking that they're missing out on something. That's it. Like, I'm like, so you were in the relationship for how many years? 7 years, and you didn't enjoy anything. There wasn't anything. So you consciously made the decision to stay somewhere where you didn't believe that you should have been. Come on now, if you can make the decision to stay where you think that you shouldn't be, don't you think you can make the decision to be where you should be? And who says 20s are your good years? Who says that? I'm still in my 20s, and I feel like my life is quite literally, I mean, it has been on the up and up. But I feel like if I'm here, I mean, who knows where I'll be when I'm in my 30s? I mean, the things that I see myself doing are pretty darn big. And at this point, I know that they're going to come into fruition so much faster because I don't have certain energies around me, because I was able to use my 20s or my young years to learn this, that, and the third. I didn't get pregnant. I didn't have certain situations where I was so out of my body and out of my mind that I allowed society or people who are very well aware that hurt people. I didn't allow certain people to drag me down into their pits, the pits of their hells that they've created, right? The solidified pits. These are people who, again, are in their 20s that have solidified hell for themselves for the rest of their lives. These people might live to be 80, 90, upwards of 100 years old, and they've already solidified. Nothing is absolute. Yes, you can change these things, but the fact that they are this way now, that means I don't have to be around them. We don't resonate. You know what I'm saying? I don't see my life as being this doesn't mean that it's this absolute thing that I have to stick to, and that I'm not able or capable of changing. I'm ever changing, I'm ever growing. So if that's the case, then that means that, yeah, I have the right and I have the ability to be a version of myself that is so gosh darn authentic, and that is so raw and just me, right? And again, I had somebody message me on TikTok. They were like, I miss your natural hair. And I'm like, I mean, I didn't shave my head or anything, and even if I did, it's my head. Like, thank you, but I mean, do you not like my, like, and it doesn't matter if you don't like it, because I like it, and if I like it, I love it, right? And so I don't know. I just think that it's there's a way to be. There's a way to be, and only you can determine that way to be, right? You have to make up your mind that that's something that you want, or that's something that you don't want. You cannot let the world determine that for you. If you let the world determine that for you, guaranteed, you're probably not going to like the outcome. You're probably not going to like the product of what, the world says you should be. I mean, the world quite literally tells you, that you need validation. The world tells you that it's okay to be poor. The world tells you that it's okay to have kid after kid after kid. It's okay to be a degenerate. It's okay to, do everything that'll keep you in the same spot that you are now. That's why people like me, yeah, I know that there are people like me that I align with, that I resonate with, that have attracted their crowd, their people, their what is it, their community. But when you're in my position like I am now, it's easy to for somebody to be like, you know, there's no results. You don't see anything happening, right? I mean, I have a few people and I'm so grateful for these people, but it's easy to get in this position and be like, there's nobody who cares. There's nobody who listens. There's nobody who needs to hear what I have to say. I know for a fact there are people out there that need to hear my version of things. There are people who need my energy. There are people who need this version of me, because the authentic version of me, because it's science. It just makes sense. It's just science. And honestly, there is no absolute way for anything. So as long as I believe it, and as long as that's my belief, that's what I'm going to bring to fruition. So I know that I have millions of supporters. I know that. I know that for a fact. I know the projects that I'm working on, they're going to change the lives of anybody who comes across me. That's intentional. That's on intentionality. It is. And that's something that I'll stand on, because I know that to be true, and I know that to be a fact. That's factual. Okay? It is. There's nothing that anyone can tell me that'll change my mind. There's nothing that I can tell myself that'll change my mind, because I have been in those positions where I'm like, okay, like even to come down to record now, or like I was saying about my hair, I was like, it's gonna be judged and da 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 da. Who cares? Yeah, somebody's gonna judge me. Yep. They're gonna judge. Who cares? Their judgment is valid. Their judgment points out something in themselves that they need to necessarily fix, or their judgment points out something in myself that I need to adjust, or something in myself that it could be a confirmation or an ideology that I have, or a belief that I stole from somebody else, right? Think about it. If I say that, someone's gonna judge me based off of me doing my hair how I want to do it. So what are we saying? Are we saying that it matters? Are we saying that judgment matters? Are we saying that it's valid? What are we saying? Okay, so if we're saying that it's valid and that it matters, knowing good and well that it isn't, or that it doesn't, to me at least, then that means that I stole a belief. There's a belief that I got told at some point in my life, be it childhood, be it adult, teenage, adult, whatever, and it's stuck, right? It's stuck. There's still some residual. Yeah, I've been posting. Yeah, I've been on here, but there's still some type of residual, right? That needs to be, for me personally, I use that as information that needs to be, those loose ends need to be tied up. The version of me that is still lingering, that needs to be put away, put down, put to the side, put out of the picture. I don't want you to exist anymore. So therefore, you're not going to exist, because I run the show. And I'm not talking about my flesh. I'm not talking about what you see here on camera. I'm talking about those who know. If you know, you know. If you see, you see. I'm talking about what's past the skin. I'm talking about what makes my skin glow. What makes me able to flow like this. What makes me able to share my best, most authentic self with a camera, knowing that it's going to help somebody, or assist somebody, or encourage somebody, knowing that, yeah, it may look a little funny. I'm sitting in a broken down car backwards, but it makes sense to me, right? I see the bigger picture. You may not see it, but I see the bigger picture. And that's all I need. I don't need anyone else's confirmation. I don't need anyone else's validation. I have enough of it on my own. The creator created me. Me being alive and existing and being authentic as I can possibly be is enough confirmation for me to keep doing this, for me to keep showing up, not only for myself, but for a community that I am quite literally manifesting, that I'm quite literally being a beacon of light for them to see and be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to flock to her. This happens when I walk outside of my door. This is why I'm such a hermit, is because when I walk outside of my door, people flock to me like a moth to a flame. It is the irony of me having red hair. The irony of me being a burn survivor is hilarious, because I've heard it my whole life. People gravitate to you like a moth to a flame. I've heard it my whole life. Like, yeah, huh? Yeah, you don't say. Like, what? But that is the reality of, dang, that person walked so close to my car. Yeah, anyways. That was the reality of my existence. And I have just granted myself the opportunity, granted myself the gift, granted myself the permission to just show up, just be yourself, just show up, just exist and exude your most authentic self. Be you, Pookie. Be you, babes. Be yourself. There are so many people that love you already. There's so many people that support you already. I have people that are on, like I said, my TikTok and my other social medias, and there's at least two people that they refuse to comment on my YouTube videos, and I'm not holding it against them, but they're like, oh, I saw your video, I saw your post, and I'm like I don't know you, but you're still reaching out, and I know that me showing up it was still beneficial for you. And that's enough for me. That's enough for me. The fact that, I'm able to touch the lives of somebody, even if they don't necessarily um, show up in ways that the world tries to trick you into thinking that people need to show up for you. People don't need to tell you thank you. People don't need to say anything. That's called validation, and you don't need it. You don't need their validation. All you need to do is be exactly who you are. You're probably saving lives by just existing. I've saved lives, and I am currently saving lives, and I will forever save lives and assist in evolution by just existing, by just showing up and being myself. That's it. Okay, bye.